Hello, everybody. Welcome to the BreachLock Unified Platform. Today, we're going to be showcasing our penetration testing as a service, or PTaaS for short, functionality here from within our platform. So the intent of embedding manual penetration testing done by BreachLock ethical hackers inside a SaaS-based platform is to do a couple different things. One, it's to reduce the amount of time and overhead that it takes in order to get a manual test scheduled with us as a vendor. But two, it's also so that you can get reports quicker, log into here throughout the year and ask us questions about remediation efforts, or just use this as a repository for reports whenever the auditor comes knocking. So today we're going to focus on the PTaaS module from within the BreachLock Unified Platform. Here we're going to give you a dashboard of every project that you have done with us throughout the engagement. We'll give you an overall risk based off of CVSS criticality, and then an overview of all projects, their unpatched versus patched vulnerabilities. How do we know if those vulnerabilities have been patched? Well, for most standard off-the-shelf projects, we're going to give you some free manual retests so that we can go back through and validate that your fixes and your configurations worked. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to schedule a pen test to get it on BreachLock's calendar. And then we're going to walk through the life cycle of what it looks like to interact. So I'm going to come down into the PTaaS module and I'm going to click New Pen Test. And we're going to say that this is for my crown jewel application. It's public facing. My customers ask me to provide penetration test reports, and the auditors also ask for SOC 2. So I need this to be an authenticated, in-depth pen test to align with OWASP Top 10 and other frameworks. Here I'm going to name this whatever I need to be named to refer to it later. And you'll be able to choose from a list of pen tests that you have purchased on your SOW. One credit equals one overall pen testing project. It does not equal one IP address. Next, I can choose from the asset inventory that this platform knows about. So your first time engagement with BreachLock, you won't have anything in the asset inventory. You can come down here and manually add those. We can do an application pen test on a subdomain, a dedicated URL, or even an IP address if that's how the application is accessed. But at this point, you can also click skip down in the bottom right. Your assigned BreachLock project manager will then reach out to you and just ask you what the scope needs to be offline. For now, I'm going to say that I need to run the pen test against this application. Next, you're going to choose what type of environment this application lives in. So is this a production asset where customers or employees are currently interacting with it? Or is this more of a staging or a dev environment where we can be a little bit more invasive in our methods, do some more data manipulation, etc. Next, I get to provide BreachLock with the credentials that I want the tester to use for the authenticated portion of the pen test. So I can come to expand, and let's say that I only have one user type that can interact with the application. It is just a standard user role. Here I will come in and add standard user, whatever those passwords, login, logout URLs need to be. And now I can put that specific role or profile in scope for this test. It's important to note here that if we are doing an authenticated pen test, BreachLock will first start without credentials so that we can validate whether or not we're able to bypass the authentication mechanisms. Maybe we can brute force our way inside the application. Then once we can or cannot do that portion, we will take these credentials and do that authenticated testing. And then last piece here is just choosing the start date and time. So this will be your preferred start date that you want BreachLock to kick off the project. A good rule of thumb is we typically only need about one business week to get something on the calendar and get it started. So I'm going to say, you know what, BreachLock, I want this thing to kick off next Friday. and I want it to run after hours. I have a managed SOC. I want to verify that my SOC can see the type of activity that's happening during a pen test. I want to test them as well. But also, this is a production asset. This is our low time for customer interaction. Let's schedule it for after hours or weekends. So any testing time restrictions you have here, feel free to throw them in. We can accommodate all times. Now, once I click submit on this test, we've avoided quite a few Zoom calls and email threads in order to talk about the 5 Ws of how we're going to do this. And you'll be able to see an overall list of all projects across requested, in progress, and completed stages. Now, the main thing to note on this screen is if a pen test is currently in progress, we have an embedded pause button here, which will lock out the pen tester, and then we'll wait for your OK in order to finish up with that project. Now, once the pen test has been completed, the reports get generated for you, and you'll be able to ingest those results in a few different spots. So you will have to wait for us to finish up the pen test in order to see the results. It goes through a very extensive QA process so that we can make sure that we're presenting true positives and that we've tried everything that we could on our side. The only caveat is if we identify a critical severity finding, we will let you know in the middle of testing so that we can meet your critical severity SLAs for your customer agreements or your standards, policies, procedures, etc. Once those tests are done, I can navigate here to the vulnerabilities tab, and you'll be able to see each vulnerability that was found across all pen testing projects. So I can click into one and I can see a description. I can see a recommendation. We'll also do some vulnerability standard mapping to NIST CWEs if there's a mapping, as well as some compliance standard mapping to PCI, HIPAA security rule, GDPR, ISO 27001, if there's a map to those frameworks. Now over here on the right is a spot for you to be able to interact with the BreachLock team. So even though this test may have only took anywhere between 5 to 12 days, we are giving you this BreachLock platform for a full 12 months so that you can interact with the testers throughout the year, ask questions about how to remediate, or maybe you want to downgrade the severity of findings because you provide us some sort of evidence here. Anything you need involving remediation assistance, please feel free to let us know and we'll make sure that we get you that help. Under asset impacted, you'll see each asset that was affected, and then you'll see that entire kill chain. So whether it was just a one step in order to prove something vulnerable, or if the kill chain was 4 or 5 steps of actual exploitation. Now, once you've gone through and you think that you've fixed a good amount of stuff that was resulted in that pen test, you'll go through and book one of those manual retests underneath the new pen test launcher here. If we identify that some of those issues have been patched, it'll move over into the patched category. Now, last thing here is there is an export option. If you need a CSV for any of your findings, feel free to export that. And you can manipulate the headers, the columns, the rows as you see fit. Now, we're also going to give you a couple different types of reports per project. So we're going to give you a detailed technical report that can be used for the technical teams in your organization. That'll list an executive summary, an overview of the findings, and then a screenshot of all of those findings. And then we're also going to give you an executive summary report, which gets rid of that sensitive information. You can send this out to your customers, to the auditors, to investors, the board, whoever needs it. Now, there is some customization that you can do with reports as far as filtering which hosts that you would like to report on. So if I click the generate button in the top here, let's say that I did an external network pen test against 500 IP addresses, but now my high trust auditor is asking for a sample size of 20 of those IPs to prove that I had implementation of a pen testing program. From within here, I could filter down on the hosts, and let's say pen test report for a high trust auditor. You can choose a reporting module, so that will be pen testing as a service. And let's say that we want to give them an executive summary. Now in here, I can choose the pen test that I want to map this to. In my case, this was an external network pen test. And from within here, we would let you filter on specific hosts so that you're only reporting on what you would like to show information on. Now, this could also be useful if you were doing a network pen test, both internal and external, against various different locations or facilities. And now you want to break up a report to those individual locations. Feel free to split up those reports as often as you need. This is really here just to help get information to the right spot and not give any extra information that you do not want enumerated. Now, finally, we do offer some integrations. So we do have Jira, ServiceNow, ADO, GitHub, ticketing integrations here in the platform. Setting them up is as easy as reading the setup guide, but we're always willing to do a working call with you as well. The intent of these integrations is to push an individual ticket or an individual incident for each and every vulnerability. So say we did a web application pen test for you. We found 5 findings between low and high severity. We will create 5 individual tickets or incidents for your teams to be able to track the same way you track your hot fixes, your bugs, etc. Now, once you close out those tickets, it will not reflect in our platform. These are unidirectional. And the reason for that is we give you those retests so that you can come back, ask us if the patches or the configurations worked, and then we'll offer you a retest report showing you that your remediation efforts were successful. Last piece is some general housekeeping here. We're going to give you an overview of all of the subscriptions that you have with BreachLock. Some of our customers know all tests that need to happen throughout a 12 months period. Other customers want to do ad hoc testing throughout the year as they have a backlog of applications, etc. So we'll let you see an overview of all subscriptions with us, how much of a thing that you purchased, how much has been currently consumed, and we'll also let you see prior year's subscriptions as well, so we don't have to have a scoping conversation every year upon renewal time. Overall, that is the penetration testing as a service workflow within the BreachLock unified platform. And again, this is really here just to help make scheduling and ingesting results of pen tests quicker and easier for your teams so you can spend more time doing the things that matter, which is those remediation functions. Anytime you're willing to take a demo and see how BreachLock's PTaaS can help your organization, please reach out to us. We're happy to demo and let you know what it would look like for your organization. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.